You know the feeling, like you're the puppet, strings pulled by unseen hands. They craft illusions, those clever magicians. Their smiles, hollow, their words, cages, promises dangled like keys to a future they never intended to unlock for you. But you're here now, aren't you? Still standing, still breathing, still dangerous. They underestimated you. When you walked into their little performance, they assumed you'd play along. Take the bait, nod your head, be another sheep lining up for slaughter. But you're no sheep. You're the wolf they forgot to lock out. And every illusion they conjured to blind you, torn apart by your teeth, you saw through it all. Every condescending smile, every strategic lie, every so-called favor. And they hate you for it. They hate that you didn't crumble under the weight of their tricks, that their games, so carefully constructed, didn't trap you. Oh, they tried. They stacked the odds against you so high, they expected you to suffocate just by looking up. Yet here you are, eyes wide open, the suffocating air now your fuel. The thing about illusions, they're only effective if you believe in them, but you've stopped believing. You've stopped bending to their idea of success, their definition of worth, their poisonous whispers of, "You're not enough." Enough? You're more than enough. You're the wildfire they can't predict, the storm they can't contain. Remember how they laughed when you dared to dream? How they rolled their eyes when you spoke about your plans? That wasn't amusement. That was fear, poorly disguised as mockery. They saw the fire in you, even before you did. And they tried to snuff it out with every trick in the book. But no amount of shade could kill your spark. It's too late now. You've tasted the truth, the sweet, bitter taste of clarity. They wanted to define you, but they forgot one thing. You're not a character in their story. You're the writer. And now, it's time to flip the script. No more bending to their expectations. No more dancing to their tune. You're done playing the victim, done playing nice. This isn't about revenge. No, that's too small, too simple. This is about rewriting everything, taking the pen and dragging it across every page they tried to write for you. And when they see it, when they realize the story no longer belongs to them, that's when the real magic happens. Some will flee. Cowards always do when the illusion shatters. They relied on the darkness of your doubts to keep you in chains. But what happens when the darkness is gone, replaced by unyielding resolve? They'll scatter like rats exposed to light. Others, they'll watch in silent dread, hoping you don't notice them as you rise. Their whispers, once so loud, will become stutters of fear. And you? You won't need to speak. Your actions will scream louder than any words ever could. But let me tell you something about flipping the script. It isn't easy. It takes guts. They want you broken. They want you to slip back into the old role, the familiar one where you doubt your every step. Don't. Not now. Not ever. The chains they forged for you were made of fear. And fear is the most fragile prison of all. Once you stop fearing what they think, what they say, what they threaten, you become unstoppable. They taught you their rules, and now it's time to break every one of them. Their rule says you must wait your turn, so take the lead instead. Their rule says you need permission. Give yourself all the permission you'll ever need. Their rule says know your place. Your place? It's anywhere you damn well choose. Remember every rejection, every failure, every door slammed in your face. Those weren't endings. They were fuel. Each one sharpened you, molded you, strengthened the fire inside, and now that fire burns too bright for them to ignore. Flip the script, and don't stop there. Burn the stage they set for you to ashes. Create a new one with your bare hands, built from every lesson learned, every scar earned, and every truth uncovered. They'll try to say you're being reckless, that you've lost control, but deep down, they know. They're not afraid of your chaos. They're afraid of your clarity, because nothing is more terrifying than someone who sees the world as it truly is and refuses to play by its lies. And if they think they've seen the worst of you, they haven't seen anything yet. Think back to every night you spent in silence, wondering if you were the problem. They planted that doubt, nurturing it until it took root in your mind. But now you've ripped out those roots, every last one of them. And where there was once self-doubt, there's now defiance. You don't owe them explanations. You don't owe them apologies for daring to exist on your terms. Every scar on your soul, it's now armor. Every loss, a stepping stone, every betrayal, the sharp edge you needed to cut through the lies. You're no longer the person they once manipulated with ease. You've grown, hardened, become something they don't recognize. That frightens them. They called you stubborn when you refused to conform. They'll call you dangerous now, and they'll be right. Dangerous to every lie they told to keep you small. Dangerous to the systems they built to keep themselves in power. Dangerous to the status quo that suffocates the bold. Your power was never meant to be chained. They knew it, which is why they fought so hard to control you. But power, real power, doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for approval. It simply is. And now, it's yours to wield as you see fit. So don't just flip the script. Tear down the theater they built around you. Rewrite the entire damn narrative. You don't need their acceptance, and you certainly don't need their applause. The only audience that matters is the one staring back at you in the mirror. Let them watch from the sidelines, helpless as you blaze a trail they can't follow. Every step you take is proof that their tricks failed, their plans crumbled. And when they try to rewrite history to paint themselves as your allies, you won't even have to say a word. Your victories will speak for themselves. No more hesitation. No more compromise. You've stepped out of the shadows, and there's no going back. The story belongs to you now. Every chapter, every page, every word. It's time to write something they'll never forget. They never imagined you'd make it this far. To them, you were a footnote, an afterthought in their grand narrative, a pawn, expendable and predictable. They thought they knew every move you'd make, every word you'd say, every crack where they could wedge their poison. But now, they're scrambling. The air's changed. You're no longer the same player on the board. It's their turn to feel the weight of the unknown. You walk differently now, every step measured but bold, like the ground should feel honored to hold your weight. Every glance, every breath, every twitch of your hand radiates a quiet fury, the kind of fury that doesn't scream. It doesn't have to. Its silence is more terrifying than any roar ever could be. Think about how hard they tried to keep you small. Every promise was a lie dressed in pretty words. Every opportunity they dangled was just another trap. But you learned. Oh, did you learn? Each betrayal became a lesson carved deep into your bones. And now, you wear those lessons like a crown of thorns. Pain didn't break you. It built you. There's a unique strength that comes from walking through the fire and coming out scarred, but whole. That's your secret weapon. You don't just survive, you adapt, you evolve. While they clung to their tired tricks and petty schemes, you became something else entirely, something they can't control, and that terrifies them. You see, control was always their endgame. They wanted your will to be as brittle as glass, easy to shatter at the first sign of resistance. But they miscalculated. Instead of breaking, you became steel. And now, every attempt they make to bend you only proves how unyielding you've become. They're watching now, whispering in dark corners, trying to figure out how you slipped through their fingers. They'll call it luck. They'll tell themselves it was a fluke, a one-off rebellion, because admitting the truth would force them to confront their own weaknesses, and they're not ready for that. But you're not done. They don't understand that your rise isn't just a moment. It's a movement, a force gathering momentum with every breath you take. You're no longer playing defense. You're on the attack now, not with cheap shots or empty threats, but with action. Relentless, undeniable action. You don't argue with them anymore. You don't seek their approval. You don't explain yourself, because you owe them nothing. Let them stew in their confusion. Let them choke on the bitterness of their own irrelevance. They thought they owned you, thought they could shape you, direct you, mold you into something safe, something small. But you were never meant to fit inside their box. You were always meant to shatter it. Remember the fear you once felt? The gnawing doubt that maybe they were right about you? That you'd never be enough? That you'd always fall short? That fear used to paralyze you. It kept you stuck, circling the same dark pit over and over. But then, something shifted. You realized fear wasn't the enemy. Fear was the fuel. Every doubt they planted, you're burning it now, turning it into pure, unfiltered power. You've embraced the darkness they once used against you. And now, that darkness is your ally. It's not something to run from anymore. It's the shadow you command, the edge that keeps you sharp. They won't see it coming. They're still clinging to the old playbook, believing they're steps ahead. But you've already written a new game, one they can't even comprehend. Every move you make now is unpredictable. Every victory you claim sends shockwaves through the world they built. And with each step, you grow more unstoppable. You're not just rewriting the story, you're redefining the entire landscape. And they hate it. But hate's a funny thing. It's born from fear, and fear only takes root when something's perceived as a threat. The fact that they hate you so much now, that's the clearest sign you're doing something right. You're no longer a pawn to be sacrificed. You're the storm they never saw coming. There's power in knowing you don't need them anymore. Power in walking away from their games, their lies, their illusions of control. They wanted you to believe that the world was theirs to give or withhold. But now you see the truth. The world was always yours to take. So take it. Take every opportunity they said wasn't meant for you. Take every door they tried to close and kick it off its hinges. Take every insult, every rejection, every failure, and forge it into the weapon they'll never see coming. And when they're left in the wreckage of their own arrogance, don't even bother looking back. Because you're not returning to the past. You're forging forward into something entirely new, a world where you're the master of your own fate. And they're just spectators now, helpless as they watch you rise higher and higher. They underestimated you once, They won't make that mistake again. Every empire, no matter how fortified, falls when it faces something it can't control. And now, you are that force, relentless, unpredictable, and unapologetic. The old rules were written to keep you down. Their system thrived on obedience, on submission. But you learned how to rewrite every rule with the blood, sweat, and defiance they thought they could crush. They're desperate now. You can see it in their eyes. The smiles they once wore so confidently have cracked, revealing the fear underneath. They've tried every trick, every manipulation, every illusion, and none of it worked. Because you've become immune to their games. No more illusions, no more second guessing. You see through the smoke and mirrors for what they really are, empty and powerless. Power isn't about domination. It's not about how many people you can control. Real power is knowing who you are, even when the whole world tries to convince you otherwise. It's standing tall when every circumstance tells you to kneel. And you've mastered that art. You don't need validation. You don't seek approval. You don't ask permission. You take what's yours. There's no going back to the version of you that once waited for the world to be fair. Fairness was never part of the equation. You've learned to thrive despite it, to rise through the ashes they scattered in your path. Every step forward is another dagger in their false narrative. Every achievement is a monument to the strength they couldn't break. And now, it's time to flip the script entirely. They once set the stage, dictated the roles, and cast you as the weak one, the underdog destined to fail. But the story's changed, and so has the protagonist. You're not here to play a role anymore. You're here to rewrite the entire narrative with a pen dipped in truth and unshakable conviction. And those who doubted you, they're nothing more than background noise now. Your path is clear, not because it was handed to you, but because you carved it from the darkness they threw you into. When others saw walls, you saw footholds. When others saw defeat, you saw opportunity. Every closed door became a test of your resolve, and one by one, you broke through every barrier until the only thing standing between you and destiny was the limit they tried to impose on your mind. But there are no limits anymore. Feel the weight of that realization. No one can cage you now. They can throw their insults, hurl their doubts, whisper their schemes in dark corners, but it won't reach you. You've outgrown their reach. You've outgrown their influence. And most importantly, you've outgrown any fear they ever planted within you. You've become something they can't define. They want to label you, box you in, assign you a role, because it makes them feel safe. But safety is a luxury they lost the moment you stopped playing their game. You are undefined, limitless, a force with no boundaries and no master. They will talk about you, of course. They will invent stories to soothe themselves, painting you as the villain in their fractured worldview. Let them. Because while they cling to their narratives, you're busy creating a legacy, one that doesn't need their approval to endure. It's time for them to watch from the sidelines, helpless as the very person they tried to break rises far beyond their reach. Every whispered slight, every underhanded tactic, every cruel betrayal, it all fueled this moment. And now, you stand where they never wanted you to be, in control. Your mind, once their playground, is now a fortress, impenetrable, invincible. Every thought, every decision is your own. You answer to no one but the vision you've created. The chains they once wrapped around your confidence have been shattered. leaving nothing but dust beneath your feet. And still, they watch, hoping for signs of weakness, for the old you to resurface, the one who doubted, hesitated, and bent under pressure. But that version of you is gone, buried beneath the weight of every lesson learned. What stands in its place is something they could never comprehend. A mind sharpened by adversity, a soul hardened by betrayal, and a will that refuses to be tamed. Your silence now speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. You don't need to fight battles with words. Your actions scream louder than their lies. Every step forward is a reminder that you've already won. The war they waged on your spirit, it's over. You walked away victorious the moment you chose yourself over their approval. They underestimated your resilience, but what they failed to grasp is that resilience is just the beginning. Resilience kept you standing, but ambition, that's what's driving you now. An ambition that doesn't stop at survival. An ambition that demands greatness, demands the life they tried to convince you you'd never deserve. The power they thought they held over you, it's been reversed. Now they live in the shadow of your success. And while they sit there, haunted by their own irrelevance, you move forward, unapologetic, unrelenting, unstoppable. This is your story now, not theirs. And as you rise, one truth will remain unshakable. Their tricks didn't fool you, and they never will again. You've taken back the pen. You're not just flipping the script. You're burning the old pages and writing a new chapter entirely. One where you are the hero, the storm, the inevitable force they never saw coming. So rise. Rise beyond the limits they tried to impose. Rise above the past that once tried to define you. And as you rise, let every step forward be a reminder to them, to the world, to yourself, that you are not just unbreakable, you are unstoppable.